Hi, everyone. Welcome to this live transmission. I'm here with my dear friend and amazing being, Brian Tseng, and we are here to talk about the full disclosure movement and New Earth. As you know, we were a few weeks ago in Florida for the Full Disclosure Now conference, which was a full and complete success. So there is many things to talk about, not only about the conference, yet about all this Full Disclosure Now movement. Where are we standing at right now? What's coming? So speaking of which, welcome, Brian.
Thank you so much, YssaH. It's a pleasure and honor to be here. I think this is probably my first time on your show here. Unified science and spirituality. Am I getting that right?
Yes,
Yeah.
unified science and spirituality. Well, to
Yep.
be honest, it's like I just invite from time to time amazing beings like you, and yeah, we hadn't had the opportunity until now to have a one-on-one, like we have been with Sean, but yet we hadn't had the opportunity until now. So, and we have much to talk about. So let's get to it.
Yes. Yeah. In addition to the amazing lineup of presenters and exhibitor vendors that we had, just our guest list and the attendees are absolutely amazing. We had Gino Gentili, an executive producer with the Y Files, there. He's interviewing lots of people and getting a lot of information from people. And their show, I think they've got like 40 million subscribers on
Wow.
YouTube, which is just huge.
Yeah.
And so they're really doing an amazing job of informing the general public of a lot of the stuff that we speak about and is generally, put over to the shelf as woo. But maybe, part of it is the high production values, their excellent writing. AJ, who's in front of the camera, for the Y Files, along with Hecklefish, like they're just so amazing and entertaining. They've got a really winning formula there. Um, and
Wow.
then also, oh, go ahead. What's that, YssaH?
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, and I was going to say, in addition to the people that we had there, we also apparently had a lot of visitors. I myself saw at least two, what I would say, those were craft. Those were not weather balloons or human airplanes or satellites or drones. No, no, no. One was like, and I recorded it, and I've got it on my Facebook feed.
Awesome.
It went basically, it was like almost looked like a plane, but it didn't have the running lights. It was more like a white light, like a star that was just moving, and then it just stopped, and then it just hung out there for a while, and then I think it like took off again. Planes don't do that. None of the stuff that we have generally do that. Um, then there was the one that I will say that was just so obvious. It was the second night, I believe, of the event. We were at the fire pits right there on St. Pete Beach at the lovely Serrano Beach Resort.
Yeah.
And it looked like a glowing giant orange orb, almost like Jupiter in the sky, like a giant, a big planet, but like
Yeah.
orange, the way that and that Mars is, but Mars is not that big or bright or close to us. And I'm pointing at it. I'm like, "Hey, everyone, look! There's this. That's a craft. That looks kind of strange, don't you think? Hey, everyone, look at that." And as I'm pointing at it, it powered it down, or it winked out, just totally went out. And I'm like, "Hey, hey, like, look, that's not a planet. Like, what is that? Come on, it's a craft, right?" And then it powered back up, but instead of coming back as an orange big ball, it was more of like a smaller winky white light, like was trying to blend in with the stars again. And then like I borrowed Sean's blue laser,
Yeah.
uh, and I was like circling it there in the sky, and it started pulsing and winking back at us. And then it kind of like, I think, just hovered and then went away for a while.
Well, yeah, definitely there was a lot of movement. In my case, I was with Tone Mallard, the
Hmm.
first day that they arrived, and which was the second day of the conference at night.
Okay.
And I had been told, like I normally get these messages before getting like physically to a place. And one of the messages that I received in relation to Florida is like that the galactic community would be very present, that there would be like a lot of activation, and that was not something isolated from a series of events that will be happening for the rest of the year. So then I was with Tone, and I saw this spaceship, and then Tone saw it again. I was so excited. I told him, "Look, look!" And then it literally went from side to side, like saying, "Hey guys, yeah, look at me, I'm here." And yeah, just then left. And also, I was with, but close to the fire pit, like something we. It's not that we were there every night, but like something about the connection and what we are generating together, as besides the whole day in the conference, throughout everything that is being activated. The fire pit brings us to that space of the heart, representing that flame, that heart flame. And I was with Lucas, with Lauge, and Brad Olsen, and
So Lucas Alexander and Lauga Felix Black of Age of Truth TV. Brad Olson, we just celebrated his 60th birthday. He's a fellow Leo, and my birthday is in 7 days from now. Plenty of birthdays coming up. We've got Christy Campbell here in the audience, and she was
yeah,
on several of the panels regarding the Montauk Project and secret space programs and the Mothers of Darkness Castle, even.
yes, yes. By the way, yeah, that panel was very powerful, very potent. But yeah, so then I was with them, and we saw, like Lauge and I saw this bright star coming, like the ones that you get to see in Sedona, because in Sedona I have experienced this type of spaceships that pass like if they were shooting stars, but they're way bigger, and at some point they just disappear, like even without going into the horizon, they just at some point disappear, like going into a portal. So that's what I saw with Lauge. And yeah, I what do you think, based on this, the connections that we have said, the communication, the level of communication, what do you think is their messages from
So,
some of them?
so this would be my understanding. We're probably the vast majority, if not everyone at our conference, is a star seed. And that means that as star seeds, our ET, to Earth extraterrestrials up there in their ships, they have a connection, direct connection to us that allows them to kind of be in proximity and to kind of hover and watch over us. Okay. And each of us have our own different starseed families. And as we gather together physically in this spot in Florida, there, I believe it's kind of like a get together for them up there too. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, and so if we're resonant enough with them that we can see them and they want to wink back at us or send them messages, like my one business partner here, uh, when we're outside looking up at the stars outside of the house here, um, he'll get a tickle sometimes. And I'll say, "Oh, yep, they're up, they're around there. I feel them." And then like he'll get a tickle, and he'll like look back on it, like I'm pointing, "Yep, there they are." You know, they're right there. They're right there. He can tell because they're our starseed family. They're telepathic. What do you know? They probably have advanced technology, so they might be able to like highlight us as little blips, waving up at them, down here on the Earth. And
Yes.
then what I'm told is by Audrey Walters and many others is that they use this opportunity to do galactic trade and to do different arrangements and share information and to party together, have a good time.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, absolutely. That's what I was going to say. How I see it is that we are entering, or we are actually experiencing such high level of coherence. And by coherence, I don't mean that everything is uh, love is in the air and perfect, but we are coming from the space of the heart. So that's more than enough, that level of coherence. So that allows to go beyond all the interferential wave field to actually raise our signal and receive at a more collective level the traits that each one of these galactic groups are giving. It's like weaving a whole tapestry together. It's not the same when you have a one-on-one connection than when you are creating a unified field, and then you're receiving we are receiving tones of codes. So then we're weaving a tapestry, and that tapestry will be used as foundations for the next steps that are to follow, and they are already here. And also another thing is that I've seen that when we are creating such a big field of coherence, our level of manifestation expands exponentially. It's like everything that we are experiencing, saying, coming together is coming from such a pure state of truth, of inner truth, for in most of the cases, that whoever is embodying that level of truth, of love, then can see already in a short time after, a lot of what one said manifested, you know and I'm not talking about simple things. I'm talking about things that are very aligned to our mission as a collective.
Well, let's speak more to that, Isha. The people getting together and resonating spiritually, and we're all looking for truth together from last year's conference already had began working with each other, being on each other's shows. Um, you and Sean, psionicleague.com, right, went to Mexico with Gustavo Medrano after meeting him at the conference last year in St. Pete Beach. What else happened? People have moved. They moved to Florida after that event, from out of state, and that was cool. A lot of good has already happened off of last year's event. So then what happened is this year, all those connections were strengthened and solidified. And
Exactly.
then yet more people and connections were made because we had people here. We had a lot of the people who were there last year returned this year. And then we had a bunch of new people who we hadn't gotten to have, like James Bartley coming from Australia,
Yeah.
Soma Ra coming from Ireland. Um, you know, uh, this is Brad Olson's first time with us. So, yeah,
Huh.
I know that a lot of those connections are going to yield a lot more fruit going on into this coming, the rest of this year and next year.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and on. Uh, for example, I'm going to acquire uh, what used to be known as, I think, like the Center for Consciousness Development or the Life Development. It's a center in Sedona, Arizona, which is very near and dear to many of our hearts. Uh,
Yes.
Shout out to Rion Deruan and Tone Millard, Team Light,
Yes.
and Arcturus Raw, and a bunch of so many others there in Sedona. Um, and this center, I'm going to do probably celebrate low key or not so low key my 50th birthday party this August the 15th, Friday next week there at the center at 333 Schnebly Hill Road. And then
Yeah.
um, I'm going to uh, do a kind of a mini conference event, or I don't know how mini it's going to be, but not as big a buildup as Florida. Um, there at the conference center, the weekend before Thanksgiving, which this year's November 27th. And so it'll be that Saturday and Sunday prior to that. So we kind of like a Starseed Friendsgiving conference, reason to
Fantastic.
get together around the time of year that sometimes Starseeds feel like black sheep, instead of the radiant golden lions that we
Yeah.
really are.
Yeah. 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 Now that you bring her up, I'm sorry to interrupt, but
We can- uh,
I brought Lakshmi to
No,
the conference in Florida. I never traveled with her, and she wanted to come. So it's funny that you bring her up.
you well, you know, I also wanted to mention you were talking about the ET visitors in the audience, and at Journey to Truth a couple years ago, there were people who were witnessing, and I couldn't see them, but some people are obviously way more sensitive than I am. I joke actually about how little sensitivity I have in regards to some of you, like you and Sean and Christy here. Christy was talking about how she was dancing and she saw Sean doing like light code and light language and she could see the light, and then she went and was dancing with them and they were making like the light code together. And probably most of us were just seeing them dancing and they look kind of fun and they're having a good time. But then to them, they're probably seeing like light, streaking around and stuff like that and orbs. Um,
Yes, yes,
yeah,
yes, indeed.
yeah. And so at Journey to Truth last year, people saw like blue orbs floating in the rafters in the ceiling above them in the main presentation room. And then likewise for our event, um, I understand from Yemi Janae that some of the sisters from the Farsight Institute, they were up on stage and they're looking out into the audience, and we had a lot of chairs, and they weren't full. Obviously,
Yeah.
it's our second year, and not everyone can just go to Florida, but we're gonna make sure that happens more and more people get to make it next year. Um,
Definitely,
yeah, but
definitely.
she herself was kind of freaked out, or I don't know to say freaked out, but she herself, this person is, and she makes no secret of it on the Farsight Institute during their broadcasts, such as their ET boardroom meetings, that she's distrustful of all ETs. Doesn't matter. She don't care. She's like, all of y'all, you're not from Earth. Get the fuck out. What are you doing? She's kind of like, she admits it. She's like, kind of like human chauvinist in that regard. But she was like apparently seeing like a lot of beings in the audience, and they're all friendly, and Sasquatch, the forest people, Bigfoot are there too, because they want to participate. They want to see this is historic what we're doing.
Yes, absolutely. And if you see how many things have happened since last year's conference until now, it has been a huge, huge breakthrough. Like we already have this connection and interaction with ET artifacts levitating, like the Buga sphere itself. And this is also something that I want to bring up. Like what we are doing here in Mexico, like Sean and I, with all these artifacts. You mentioned Gustavo, who's also, doing and Mike Forrest and other beautiful beings that actually I am connecting with, and we have um, exciting news that I can share after they happen, but we will be doing many important things in November, you know. So, but anyway, after this interaction with all these artifacts, of course, you're connecting more and more from a state of awareness with the beings that are in, like, within these artifacts, or that are connected to these artifacts. And that involves different ET groups, that differ, that involves different dimensions, that involves different planets, star systems, and so forth. So they are so happy and so supportive of what we are doing, and that they are saying, move forward, because we are holding the space. This is so meant to be. We are here for you, and now is the moment. So this is why we are all coming out front, putting all the information out. And the more that we come together in unity as a tribe, this is why one of the reasons why I love the beehive, solar bee and so forth, because it is absolute harmony within the creation and manifestation of that unity. And that's what we are. That's the one of the only things that we need to do. Awesome. I want one, Ryan. If you have more,
I'll get
I,
more, definitely more to the glow in the dark stickers.
wow, I
You
love
should
that.
kind of look at it like this, right? You talk about how excited and supportive these positive ET beings are.
Yes.
And, you look at like the crystal skull that you and Sean brought to the event. I kind of see these as like touchstones or telephones. And imagine, you put in a telephone booth and you install the phone and the line is alive, but no one's there to pick up for thousands and thousands of years. And then here you and Sean and Gustavo and the local villagers dig up these artifacts, and you're essentially, it's like kind of picking up the telephone and saying hello, like who's there. And and a lot of these artifacts are there to anchor in timelines and to kind of share the presences of beings that have been here before, many of whom have apparently assisted humanity, right?
Uh, Absolutely. The Buga sphere itself, we can see, like all these spheres in all these depictions, ancient depictions. They are everywhere. This is the symbol that I decoded 7 years ago.
Is that
And
an artifact you dug up, or is that a recreation?
no, it's an artifact.
That
Look,
is an artifact, and it looks
that-
just like the Buga spear. Has very similar um, symbology on it, on the
yeah,
front top part at least.
look at these spheres.
Yep.
These are Mayan glyphs. And here there are these ET beings.
Hmm.
And we can see how the rock was damaged, like some, I don't know, like scratching. And this hybrid being, a glyph. And here is the symbol of the foundation that I decoded 7 years ago, Brian. 7 years ago. And 2 months ago, a beautiful, beautiful friend, brother from Ojuelos, Jalisco, sent to me the photos of this piece that was excavated with the same symbol.
That's a
So
pretty specific symbol there. It's
it
very
is,
detailed.
it is, and it is, and even at the size, it's like crazy. You know, I remember when I first saw it. To be honest, I went through my own doubt. Like how legit. And then he sent to me another one with the excavation process, how they are digging into roots. And there is even a glyph with that symbol, Brian. There is even a glyph with that symbol. Uh, you see the sphere. This is a Mayan type of pakal. And we can see all these.
That mask actually looks a lot like this.
Yes,
That
exactly.
looks a lot like that. Looks a lot like that actually.
And you know, when I see all of these things, I know that they are smiling because, on to some extent, the information that I get and what I'm being shown is that all the information, all the data is being put together as a specific mirror of who we are, and we're putting together as a tribe. You know, in this case, the little guy that you have, the artifact, is the same. You know, so it's like, what are the odds for this to happen? And this is when I actually can like confirm that when you're doing the right thing, you know, beautiful magic happens, beautiful coherence, beautiful. And I have even now another upcoming artifact that has as well this, but it's even more ancient. And I'm going to show it to you when I have it. And this is way before um, ancient Kem or Septepi. You know, these are very specific beings that
Yeah,
even,
again, that being looks like her face, looks like this face.
yes, yes, those are from Ojuelos, Jalisco.
Mhm.
Yes, yes. And,
But then
you
when you
know,
look at the Hawaiian versions, there's still almost like a similarity,
oh,
a kinship. This is a Hawaiian like Maori, or not Mau. I'm messing up the name now, but yeah,
where does that come from?
Hawaii. This was from Maui.
Maui. Wow. Wow. Super powerful.
Mm.
It's super alive. Super, super alive. Uh, yeah. You know, it's like wherever, however we see it, this is undeniable. This is becoming more and more and more undeniable, um, and cannot be hidden anymore.
No,
Cannot
and
be put in dirt, under earth, dirt. I'm sorry, anymore. You know,
what's
Maori, Maori. Christy Campbell is saying Maori. Uh,
Maori? Thank you, Maori. It's Maori. Thank that. Yes.
yeah,
And then I wanted to answer
yes,
Hadi's question. Are
sure.
starseeds time travelers old souls? So from my understanding, it's like this. Starseeds are people who we've had incarnations in other places like star systems, and where a lot of us are here now, incarnated in human bodies to help assist in the Earth, humanity's ascension, along with Mother Earth, who's already ascending with or without humanity. Um, and so, to that extent, if people have gotten to like travel all over the world and live all over the world, and then now they live in the United States, they might tend to have been a little bit older than, say, those who haven't gotten to travel around all over and are just from like the one state and they haven't really traveled out around the country, much less the world. And so I'd kind of like make that analogy between star seeds, being old souls or relatively older, as opposed to maybe those souls who are more younger and haven't had a lot of lives in a lot of other star systems and are more earth-based souls, where their soul evolution and development is really more starting out and is fundamentally here on earth.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. And how I just to add to that is, from my experience from the family, the tribe that we are, I can see that some of, like, most of us are old souls, you know, and that is not a condition for a star seed to be, or time travelers. However, there are a lot of star seeds coming that are fresh souls. This is why it's also very easy for them to go to not fall into the dynamics of the simulation matrix, because they don't have that imprint anymore.
Right.
So
They're so
so
foreign to it because they're coming from such a hopefully higher, better realm.
yes, yes, exactly. And the even though they won't remember, like, of course, if they are fresh souls timeline lifetimes here, the technology and the way they use the energy becomes so natural, that it's they just do it in a very simple way, in comparison to old souls that go through the process of clearing a lot, and actually reaching that um, threshold, like that unleashing of their own treasure. And now that he brings that up, I just want to mention that more and more, even the biology is different. We can see that they have, like, Paracas skull. It has been a while. Like all these elongated skulls that are far from human, not only because there have been researches that have mitochondrial DNA from the mother, because we don't get mitochondrial DNA for the father, and it's positive mother Earth, if terrestrial mother, and negative terrestrial father. So that's one. Other thing is, like, the sutures in the brain, they're absolutely non-human.
Right. It's not
No,
it's not where they did boarding and they put boards on people's heads and they made their heads longer and flatter and cone heady. Maybe in some cases, but not a lot of the practice skulls. Those are clearly ETs.
exactly, exactly. The suture, and if you manipulate the shape of the skull, that's one thing. But what you cannot manipulate is the mass of the skull, or the weight of the skull, or you cannot augmentate the bone, in terms of mass. So, and now also there have been these small beings found in Mexico a lot, a lot, a lot, a lot. And in the stories of, or legends, or mythology of how some pyramids were built, they say that the little dwarfs built all the pyramids, through, or most of them, at least the ones in the coast, in the Atlantic coast, in the Gulf of Mexico, actually, and that they used levitation capabilities, and they would build them like this fast. And those small beings are connected to the ones in Egypt, Bes, and even the shape. So there are a lot of beings that uh, they are even currently here. They call some of them the aluches, which is like the version of Bigfoot, if we could say it somehow, uh, but um, but in a way smaller version. It's like this big, and it's white, and yeah, they are still in the jungle. They are still in the jungle, and they call them the aluches. So they are kind of albine, albine.
Albino white, Blanca.
Yes,
Hmm. Hmm.
yes, yes. So yeah, there are a lot of species coming out to light. Um, though, and which leads me also to this question: what would you say that are the seven pillars, or less if you want? It can be five, whatever you want, but which would you consider that are the most important pillars for a harmonic disclosure, the most harmonic that it can be?
So, when speaking to large groups of people with any message, and it's kind of like true in sales, let's say we're selling cars, whatever, you know, there's going to be 10% of the people, they want your car, they're ready to buy, take their credit card or whatever. The next 20 to 30%, they're likely to buy if you can get time with them to speak and to show them your car and all that. Okay. Then it's that next 20% that you really got to fight for. Okay. Maybe you'll get them, maybe you won't. And then there's like this, that bottom, I don't know, 20% or 30% or so where they're not interested. They don't want to buy and they're not going to buy. So when you talk about a harmonious way, the most harmonious way for the full disclosure movement to proceed and to be successful, I'd say it would be by first us kind of organizing like that leading top 1% of us, like the presenters and organizers and traveling around and doing all sorts of stuff, right? And then a lot of people have been in the programs, okay, of all sorts of different ones. And then there's that next 10%, right? Of people who, if we can reach them, they're hungry for this. They want the truth, and they're on board. Okay, so now we're kind of in that phase where I feel like we're trying to get out to lots of people, but we're really trying to, now that we're solidifying the cohesion of that 1% of us. Now we're getting the rest of that next 10%, that 11% chunk, and around that 11% chunk, get out more to bring in that next 20 to 30%. That, okay, if enough of us are saying, having a good time at this party, this 11%, well, the next 20 to 30% out there, they're going to want to come and join us. Okay. And that's kind of like where the movement is really having to build up to for the next several years, I think. And
Hmm.
then the trolls, or the people who are like making fun of us the whole way, telling us we're crazy, gaslighting us, calling us live action role players, blah, blah, blah. Um, when the medical beds are here and the clean energy technology is here, and a lot of us are going to the hospitals and medical centers now, totally revamped, and we're going in as like 50-year-olds and coming out as like 25-year-old looking. They're not going to like, oh, you guys are fruitcakes. I don't want any part of that. They're going to shut up. They're going to put their name on the list. And when it's their time to get in that med bed, they're probably not going to say no to that, right? They're going to just be quiet and follow along.
Yeah, yeah. That it's a beautiful, beautiful, and very wise way to put it, which reminds me of before I was in the Age of Truth TV show with Lucas and Lauve, and at some point we touched the topic of the importance of mastering the 0 point energy, not only from a technological level, yet also from from a spiritual level. Because let's say that what if all the harvesting control systems are very uh, strong due to the way that they use the gravitational field on their behalf or on their favor, because it is fulfilling that purpose of pulling in our energy and actually anchoring, or trying to, in most of people, and trying to anchor the emotional body, what we know also as ego and so forth, into that thickness, onto that low frequency. Because all, even the DNA, the parts like the RH positive and negative, what it truly is that the RH positive even is only present in humans, and how it was designed is precisely to slower, on to some extent, the process of immunity, the immunity system, and also in the process of reaching a higher coherence in the water. But that doesn't mean that cannot be modified. That means that if we connect with that 0 point energy, with like outside and within, we are capable to enhance and promote the levels of plasma that we are generating in our body, and therefore even modify ourselves genetically and even our blood type. You
And,
know,
and
like
that's and that's activation. Well, I know it can activate the DNA. Are there people who are getting swapped from Rh positive to Rh negative blood? Really?
there is a bridge that is the weak D antigen, because Rh positive is mainly when you carry the D antigen. So that is highly hydrophobic, which means that its nucleus won't connect with water. If you see the structure, what it does. So the more that we not only acknowledge, yet act in coherence by stimulating ourselves with proper frequencies. This is fundamental because our molecular structure of water responds and starts to generate more cohesive state to its fourth state of water, which is the crystalline fluid, which is the one that is actually breaching into the quantum field. You know,
And
it's the more
that can
coherent. It's like
activate
a superconductor.
that can activate our DNA.
Yes, yes. It's the one that within our whole molecular structure of water in our body is the one that is enhancing and promoting the levels of plasma in our blood, and the way that mitochondria behave. And therefore, if we say that it's in our blood, the more ionization and hydronium that we generate in our blood, this process is possible, is visible, not directly from day to night. I mean, most of the cases, I cannot say that's not possible, but it's a progressive weakening of the D antigen because the chemic is there, the maths are there. And I'm not saying that the D antigen is bad, like it has blissed us in many ways. We are healthy, but it's just a matter of evolution, so
Penny Bradley has a lot to say about the blood types and the bloodlines, and the way the other side makes such a big deal out of it. In terms of the psionic abilities and people to abduct into the programs.
exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. There is a lot of, there is a saying that it all comes to the bloodline. And this is why, like, when we hear that the monarchy has the blue blood, it's not just a saying. It's because at some point that blood was so dark that would be, like more bluish, in between purple and bluish.
Did that mean it had more copper in it as well? Is that why? Or is it like also the chemistry there? Or?
That's a very interesting question. I would relate it more to iron, because even when we see for instance, the cinnabar, which is this powdered mercury fusioned with sulfur. So, and they use it to levitate. So, if we say that all these beings were highly active in levitation processes and so forth, like another tech,
You talk red mercury.
yeah, it's cinnabar, red
That's
mercury.
all they're doing to add to make that from mercury to red mercury. Is they're adding cinnabar?
And no, actually, the cinnabar is the red mercury. I'm sorry, there is a delay. So if I'm interrupting you, it's not my intention, but
No, you're
there's
fine.
a
No,
delay.
you're answering the question. So like when I see mercury and it's reddish, that's because they took cinnabar and added to the mercury, and it made that tinted the mercury red.
Actually, the cinnabar is the result of the fusion of mercury and sulfur.
Okay. Okay. So you take mercury and sulfur, and then you get that. You're going to get a byproduct, and then that's the cinnabar. And that cinnabar is that's the red mercury itself, or do you have to process it further from there?
Well, when you put together the mercury and this and the sulfur, it's not automatically giving you that red color. You
Okay.
actually have to compress the molecules in a very specific pattern that then the green and blue light will be absorbed, and the red light of that powder will emerge due to the wavelength, because the wavelength will go very slow as the color red is. So then you get the red powder. But if you create an analogy of the cinnabar to the blood, because you know that there were many monarchs and kings that were drinking liquid mercury, trying to find the key of eternal
Right.
youth.
They thought it was right. They hogged it thinking it was going to help them. Oh, it's a special magical material of the gods. Give that to me. I want to drink it because I'm the king.
Yeah, I know. Like they went far too literal. You know, it's like, okay, mercury is good for levitation and so forth, so bring it to me.
Well,
But
even then, what I believe John Whitberg talks about is how red mercury, it's actually really toxic, and the World War II Nazis in their early space program days were finding out that's a big issue of having to somehow shield the pilots, the crew, properly from exposure to red mercury.
definitely, definitely, it can damage you a lot. The mercury itself does it in its natural state, and so the cinnabar. The thing is that if we do an analogy to the blood and what generates the levitation process in our blood, it would be actually the iron. And I'm saying this because you mentioned, like what was the thing that was creating the bluishness in the blood, you know? And so for me, it was high levels of iron, that actually even generate a higher potency in the alchemical process of getting that coherent field as the cinnabar does, like at a very technological level, with hard metals and so forth. But
It sounds like there's some kind of special processing techniques to get it to the sulfur and the mercury to form that specific compound.
yes, but one thing is that as they knew it was toxic, they wouldn't leave the cinnabar into the atmosphere. They would seal it through mica, this crystal that can actually hold very high temperatures, and that they use in the rockets
The
due to this.
countertop for mica, yeah, yep, mica, yep.
Yeah, so that would be the coat. So then the cinnabar wouldn't be there, like at say at first touch or contact. It would have the mica and then the cinnabar powder. So
Mhm.
that would
Mhm.
keep them not intervening in the atmosphere. So here Chris is saying, yeah, the mercury is under for sure. And also in the Red Queen's tomb, which was the wife of Pakal, and not because due to that, imagine those two pyramids with that amount of cinnabar
Flying?
plus
Are they flying around?
uh well, you seen the I'm quite sure that you have seen the lead of Pakal's tomb, how it shows that is just ready to get some propulsion and actually reach out into the underworld, the Shivalba, which is the what for the Egyptians. But what I do feel is that because they found water under the pyramids, like in most of the pyramids, there is water sources. So they found water on the deep layer. There are other technological devices that they have not revealed. And then you have two tombs full of cinnabar. So they were creating let's say, zero point field for sure. Um, I do think that if their corpses were there, is because just to show that the transit of what could have happened. If
Or
the
or or maybe later on, humans didn't know, like the technology was all run down. It'd be like someone going into a car factory, 1,000 years later, and it's or whatever would be left of a car factory, let's say, having no clue what it is, thinking it's a sacred site, and saying, "Let's bury our dead in here. Why not?"
Yes, yes. But Brian Forrester also talks about this a lot, like how the natives later on reached out those points and started making them temples and rising other kind of structures. Yes. Here, Pakal, even his complexion, his physical complexion of their bone structure and so forth, he was not very tall. He doesn't present elongated skull, because I have gone deep in research into this. I have friends that work in INA, that have PhD in Mayan cosmology, and the even they put together, because his skull was smashed, so they put it together, but there was not presenting, like, hard to say, but a suture or deep elongation. So
So the
uh,
debunkers will always have, oh, like that room to debunk, quote unquote.
yes, yes, yes. And now that you say that you mentioned that, it's very interesting what the scientific community is going to say about the irrefutable information that is coming, like in Egypt. Now change years and years, thousands of years of stories, and like, just rewrite the story.
Well, or actually not rewrite the story, reveal what really happened, and overturn the BS fairy tales, the fake fairy tales that that we've been fed, of like evolving from monkeys after the dinosaurs just happened to be wiped out by a meteor. When,
Yeah.
yeah, when we're really a grand experiment that got hijacked by the Anunnaki and negative reptilians and negative gray types and negative insectoids. But we have a lot of positive friends. Um, the crystal skull that you and Sean brought, I think the vast majority of people got a great or good or very powerful vibe off of it. I'd say one or two people kind of got an uneasy vibe or distrustful, but you know, that was kind of like the overall consensus is more people, I think, liked it, had a positive experience with it than a negative one, or some people had just a neutral one.
Yes, I agree. As you were saying, for me, they are quantum drives. They are connecting to sub matrices, some of them, other ones to bigger interfaces and epicenters, and then bringing all that information, giving upgrades, activating. And for me, it can also be a reflection of yourself, because the level of energy that they emit is so pure and strong. Once you clear it, I must say, once you clear it, because when you first receive it or dig it, it has a lot to be cleared. There is a lot to be cleared from the piece. Why? Because
Because some of these artifacts, like maybe sacrifices or other negative rituals or darker rituals, they might have been involved in, that might we might perceive as negative, but maybe in their time that was a thing, but then there's still heavy energy on those objects.
well, as far as I remember, there are a lot of artifacts that literally have blood, not in a, like in a stain, not as a stain, but because they would blend the
Make it right.
components of the piece to actually create that superconductivity, that plasma transmission. So there is something very interesting, because there are all type of theories. Our theories, whether they use the blood that they from their own victims or enemies, and or the people that they sacrifice, or as how I remember it is that throughout the initiations, I'm not generalizing. I mean, I'm not, like saying it, as an absolute truth, and
Just for
that's
what you remember in your recalls from perhaps your own past lives, not for all the cases, but from what
yes,
you recall.
yes, exactly. And in the initiation processes, like if you wanted to become a jaguar warrior or or an eagle warrior, or like all the types, the different hierarchies of warriors, you would continuously go through piercing you with spines your ears, your mouth, not only to put earrings, but as a process to obtain blood. To obtain blood for what? And now you get that part of, if we now have spaceships that we say that they are sentient technology, that they are connected to the creator, because it has its DNA, where might be a very rustic way of getting that connection, that plasma, that DNA in the artifact. But actually, it's not that rudiment, like not that primitive, because the oxide ferrite itself, when it comes together into some minerals and other alchemical components, it generates a state of electroconductivity, of superconductivity, of enhancer, so they knew what they were doing. So this is how I remember it.
I,
And
I've seen video of rocks in Africa where they're holding them together and like sparks are shooting off of them. Maybe I don't know if that's related, but yeah, yeah, I could see them um, making some exotic advanced polymers
yes,
because, right, because people are saying that this isn't a rock that was carved into this shape. It was actually, this is some kind of special geopolymer, perhaps with blood
exactly.
mixed into it, formed into this shape.
Absolutely. They are not organic rocks in the way that they were just like that. They found them like that. No,
And then
they
they
were
carved the rock.
created. They created through alchemical process. Some people even relate them to the alchemical process of the philosopher's stone. That level of technology. And like, of course, if they have a lot of things attached and they need to be cleared, is because unfortunately there is something related to the blood magic, to put it, or the blood technology, that brings a lot of entities due to the other side of it, what has
Right,
been done with it,
right.
among many other things that get to be attached to these powerful artifacts due to their power, because they are really powerful.
Yeah,
So it's
because
like life.
anytime there's like blood sacrifices, a lot of these lower vibrating beings are very much drawn or attracted to that in the spiritual, and they kind of flock. Yeah.
Yes. I always like to give this example because, speaking about that topic of the sacrifice, there was a quantum physicist, a Mexican quantum physicist. His name was, or is, I don't know because he disappeared, uh, Jacobo Greenberg. And he actually was a pioneer in the quantum physics. He developed the theory of the synthergy, which is the connected universe, and the lattice, and so forth. So he started to connect with very powerful information that actually he found the way of how to transfer information at distance from one consciousness to another, which would be some kind of remote viewing, but both sides, like telepathy at a way more expanded way form. And other things that when he finished his papers, he disappeared and saw his papers. So there are a lot of theories that he was taken by, kidnapped by SIA, or that they hired him, or that some ET groups took him and like left Earth with him, or took him to inner Earth. There are many, many, or that they killed him. The thing is that he did a research for 3 months. He went to a shaman, a woman shaman, and because everyone would talk about her, like she would perform surgeries with no anesthesia, open heart surgeries.
Psychic surgery.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
Psychic surgery with no instruments, where she's like reaching her hands in directly into the human body, doing things and then pulling them out, or not even touching and just doing surgery without even touching the patient physically.
Well, the pictures that they have and the ones that I have seen, she's holding a kitchen knife. So she did use knives. I know. But the impressive thing, and what blew him away, and then he started into this spiritual path and putting quantum physics together into spirituality and so forth, is because a man came to get a heart surgery. So he says that Jacobo Greenberg describes that when she took her knife, her kitchen knife, and opened him without anesthesia, and then pulled his heart, his sick heart, and from the quantum made another heart appear, created it, and then did the transfer of hearts, all his beliefs crashed,
Yeah.
like
Yeah, no,
and
right, exactly. His whole world just went. "Wah."
collapsed. It's like his whole scientific universe went down into the toilet, so then he had to start from zero. And so that brings me, and there are many witnesses, there, and he was a scientist,
Mhm.
even, like looked by the CIA. He has a lot of background, solid rock background. So when I see the tablets of these ETs holding a heart and having a body on, resting or lying on something, the first thing that we usually think is, oh, sacrifice. What if some of those depictions were showing the teachings of healing, high healing, or surgeries that they were showing to humans?
That makes sense. I think the Egyptian hieroglyphics would also support that. Yeah, and we'd have to have Trevor Grassi and friends, but I think that's not a bad theory. I could see that in some cases being, yeah, very possible, especially when these artifacts in general a lot of times are of a more positive or healing nature, rather than, I've never seen or I've yet to see like a really warlike motif, even on like what would be perceived as a stone dagger or a wand or an athame. They don't seem to be about violence, you know. And so if they're to show organs, I could see that as more being towards healing them rather than ripping them out of people's chests.
Yes, 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 indeed. And even, like I was tuning into, because I was taught, now that you brought up Egypt, I was talking to a friend who is one of the biggest Egyptologists there. He has been in very important excavations that they have found mummies with tails and other type of artifacts with red mercury, but not as powder, yet as a liquid mercury. spheres, like so many things that they just take it and then deny it and then sell it, to collectors that won't, most of them won't show it ever again. But
They're probably secret society groups.
yes, because they will use them. They,
Right.
they know how
Exactly.
to reactivate them and use them on their
Hmm.
on their favor. So anyway, I was I was receiving, like that mummification process as a practice, as an spiritual and high technology practice to make your body go into, like that dehydration. So it was a way of preparing yourself into the other reality. At least it began that way. Then after generations, then it was, something that was applied. But in the beginning, it was a self practice.
That makes sense. Like, all the lost wisdom, the Christos oil and the Kundalini, everything that's coming back.
Yes, yes. Which lead us to new earth. So I want to ask you, Brian, but just before going there, because I do believe that this is very important. What is the strength of full disclosure? What do you think?
I'd say that the current state of the movement is accelerating rapidly. It's still getting its legs, as it were, but we definitely have gotten past the disclosure as a very small niche, and very few people have heard of the concept. I mean, there's still a long way to go. There's still a lot of people, if I'm riding a Lyft or an Uber, or talking to people walking by them in the street, a lot of them aren't going to know, but more and more people are getting familiar with these concepts. And when I start to get deeper into these discussions with them, a lot more people are like, I have seen a UFO before, or I have had a paranormal experience. I'm running into more and more of that versus like blank stares and looks. And I think part of that might be maybe a lot of us have had these experiences, but sometimes they get shelved or forgotten for whatever reason, and now more of us are waking up and remembering them. That's part of it. I believe the light has already won, like as above, so below, as within, so without. The light has already won in the higher heavenly realms above, and that's manifesting and making its way down here now in the lower 3D and 4D, 5D realms. And abundance is starting to come in. So there's going to be, I like to use the metaphor of like, Miley Cyrus on a wrecking ball coming through. The
Yeah,
bad
I've heard
guys are like
that
on a
one from
wrecking
you.
ball.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've been trying to come through on the wrecking ball, and they thought they were going to slam through the wall. And once they slammed through the wall, they would quote unquote win and dominate all of humanity. And instead, they kind of bonked into the wall and went dong, and they didn't slam through the wall. They bounced off of it. So we're still kind of in the crappy area, towards where they almost won, but they didn't. And now we're swinging back towards the light has won, because the dark is clearly lost, and the light has won, but it's still making its way through the darkness to get back more to the a lighter side of things. And the faster, or actually the more efficiently and ethically, or with integrity, organize the movement and get out to the masses, the better and faster that process will be. So, do I know when X, Y, or Z is going to happen? What a lot of the ETs apparently say is they don't like to give dates, but they're much more likely to go by key event milestones. Okay. When we reach a certain point in our development and so many people are talking about UFOs in the skies, then they can tell the Farsight Institute that they're going to appear. Now they're appearing. once enough people are starting to acknowledge that we've got these craft in the skies and we're not threatened by them, hey, they may even be friendly in our star family, then like the next phase can come in. They can bring in bigger ships and then bigger ships and reveal themselves to more and more. And that's going to be an ongoing process. But those would be like more of like a milestones or indicators rather than 2027, you know.
Yeah. You know, last one of the last crop circles, which I call them crop codes that I decoded, translated, uh, was pointing out to the lunar eclipse on the 7th of September, and that will actually be a crucial milestone for the upcoming months in the year. And synchronistically, a lot of people has now been talking through many sources that there is an upcoming um, collective first encounter, because they have detected, like the scientific community have found, for instance, in this case, the three eye atlas, which they don't even know whether if to define it as a comet, as a, well, not a yeah, whether of a comet or as an asteroid or whatever, because they themselves say, okay, it doesn't fulfill the requirements to be a comet or an asteroid, but we don't
Changing
know what it is.
directions because it's changing directions.
It's I don't know. What I do know is that it's like coming to Mars first, like its trajectory is showing to reach Mars first in September, and then it would be approaching in between Venus and Jupiter. So that trinity is going to be, let's say, like the epicenter, but very close to Earth, close enough for us to see it. So it's like the trajectory of the spaceship, and it's very interesting that they have called it Third Eye Atlas.
Okay,
Uh,
I see. Because because its trajectory, its path takes it to a very significant kind of cosmological conjunction, and it's just like lining up kind of perfectly. It's like syncing up, and it's kind of like that's like more than just random chance, is what you're saying.
yes, yes, and like the speed in which it is traveling, which is not a constant increasing speed of what would a comet be, or even the wavelength is not cohesive to what an asteroid would be. So it is just creating like a very specific intermittence. Somehow, what you were asking, some kind of intermittence, that it's not cohesive to be a comet or an asteroid.
Hmm.
So and it absolutely makes sense to what I was reading in the crop circle, because when I read crop circles, I'm not only tuning into my intuition or my remembrance, I'm actually like breaking it down from a scientific aspect. Like, where is this pattern coming from? Is it talking about astronomical events? Is it talking about genetic aspects? Where is it coming from? And it pointed out to the pattern that follows the lunar eclipses, and even the numerology. It's impressive. It's beautiful how they communicate with us.
Hmm. Yeah, because a lot of people talk about how the crop circles, they're showing certain sun and moon and planet configurations that when you analyze them, they'll indicate different dates, often coming up, and then they're significant for some reason. And so that sounds like one of them.
Yes. Yes, we will go to one crop circle at some point, Brian. We will bring them
Are there any
some
crop
of the
circles?
tribe.
Are they in Mexico as well? I know they're mostly in the UK. I've heard there are some that appear here in the US. Are you talking like what crop circles are you referring to? The ones in the UK or Mexico or where?
In Mexico, we haven't found so far.
Okay, none in Mexico.
Yeah,
And then
but
have
we
you
can
heard about
find
any in
another.
the US?
Yeah, I know about the ones in US, and interestingly, the ones that appear in UK mainly, they are known to they wait for them around the months of May or earlier or after, but that range after, like, very synchronistically to a celebration for um, Archangel Michael. So they do this huge celebration for Archangel Michael, and then the crop circles start appearing, like a little bit earlier, a little bit before, after. I mean, it's like around those dates, which is also very interesting.
Well,
Not
because
religiously speaking, of course, but
well,
more.
because a lot of these dates they line up with certain configurations of the stars and the planets, and then that those can apparently serve as portals for the different beings to like more easily traverse to get here and then interact with us. You know, yeah.
Yes, yes, I agree. I agree. Brian, I want to ask you, because I don't want to keep you too long. I know that you are really very busy lately, which makes me very happy. And it's really heart expansive to see all the growth that we all are embodying ever since we came together. And I know that most of you know each other for a while now. In my case, I met most of you last year, and it has been an honor. And it is an honor, and I'm so grateful for that. So, um, what do you think is the main ingredient for that new earth that we are co creating?
I'd say it's a spiritual evolution, and for us to spiritually vibrate higher, we need the truth. And right now, humanity can only vibrate at such a high frequency because we're living distorted lies. But as we get the truth out in a loving, coherent, understandable way to more and more people and help enlighten them in a good way, not illuminate them, right, but enlighten them positively, then that coherency and that light is going to build and build and build, and it's going to have greater and greater effects. People are going to become increasingly telepathic and empathic and communicate better with their animals, pets. Um, uh, People are going to have more prophetic dreams and are going to wake up more and more out of the lame 3D matrix shell. And all of that has to crumble down in order for us to build the new earth. And so I'm seeing a lot, mostly stuff is crumbling around us, which we don't need to help. It's going to crumble on its own. What we're busy doing is building the
Exactly.
ship, you know, for us all to be on when the Titanic sinks. We're not trying to fix the Titanic. We're building the new type of ship that we can all live on and be on happily and safely.
Thank you so much for saying this, because this is so important. It's critical actually to know where we are, what we are feeding with our energy. Like getting it from the way that we see that they are trying to harvest our energy, to actually start knowing that the way that we can shift it is us using our energy for other matters, which in this case is creating this new earth. So, yeah, I absolutely agree. And there are very exciting things coming up, very exciting things that we have just experienced. Is there anything else based on what's
Yeah, well,
based on?
briefly, yeah, yeah. Let's leave off on this because you're asking about New Earth and what does that process look like as the old regime crumbles and we expose the nasty, nefarious evildoers trying to drag us down. Um, a lot of it once we've had enough disclosure, I like to think and hope that some of these technologies are going to be released to the general public. And so part of implementing New Earth is people learning how to utilize clean energy technology and anti-gravity and medical beds. And so even though a lot of the old school mechanics and electricians who knew to run the old school nuclear power plants, they're all dying off. We're now hopefully going to have new technology coming online that you don't need people who are really skilled at climbing around in wires and and dealing with transistors and stuff. Maybe there are newer, better ways of doing things. And that's also going to be part of the new earth. As the old system crumbles, we're going to be implementing the new tools and the new things, and the more spiritually aware people will be stepping more and more into leadership. And the old nasty ways are going to die off.
Yes. I just want to add to that, which is very much where you're coming from, that we don't need to wait for others to create also what we know that we require in order to move forward. We can build it itself. We can see all the videos of people that didn't study anything related to quantum physics, to quantum mechanics, and they are creating free energy devices. They are creating their own energy, free energy, their own technology. So, and this is triggering a lot the old school, because they are acknowledging that they are not necessary. So they are um, inherently being invited to actually offer that platform to acknowledge that this is, and that this is happening no matter what. So um, yeah, very excited for what's coming, what already is, and that we occupy our powerful space in this co-creation of this new earth. And anything else that you want to say, how people can reach you, Brian? How can they know more about everything that you're doing?
I wanted to show you Winnie the Wonder Dog, but she's camera shy.
Oh,
Yeah, you can find me at www.fulldisclosure.network, all one long word, as well as www.fulldisclosure.live. And you'll find the conference websites, and then also the the blog, and then upcoming information. I've fallen behind a bit. Some of my next couple weeks, I'm going to be preoccupied with relocating from northern Nevada, both to mostly Sedona, Arizona, and a little bit to Washington State. But after that, I'll have a more regular cadence. And in addition, all the conferences, I'll be doing a regular weekly live stream show as we continue to build up the Full Disclosure Network platform.
so exciting. So exciting. We were saying behind cameras how when we were together in Sedona, I received this huge message that Sedona is receiving us. There are very specific things to be done there. And now, uh, like space and time wise, everything is showing such a level of coherence that inspire us and nourishes our heart to continue and going fully forward, and inward. So, yeah.
Got to download that we would all be doing a lot of great work together there in Sedona.
Yeah.
And and Zachary and Sue Fisher and I talked about, well, how long would it take for us to get Sedona money together to buy a house or a compound there? And we were figuring 3, 4, 5 years, and now it's turned out to be about 5 months. And not only are we getting a compound, we're getting one of the compounds. This Sedona Center, Deepak Chopra has spoken there, Dr. Greg Braden, a whole bunch of people know and love this place, and they're thrilled to see it coming back to life.
Oh, I'm so happy. So, so happy. Like my heart is like bam, bam, bam.
Yeah.
Okay. So, any words you want to say before uh,
No,
wrapping this up for now?
I just want to thank you and Sean, for your friendship and everybody out in their audience, for being here and for your support. And I'm just going to say, Solar be out, and I'll be in touch. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all for watching this transmission. Thank you, Tribe, for joining us. And we will be um, sharing more information soon. So, again, thank you for being here. And this is all for now. And until next time.